And now, the best 60-ish seconds of your week.
And it's Saturday morning and time for another edition, unedited, unscripted, unvarnished, of the best 60-ish seconds of your week. And again, we're talking about trials this week as the quote-unquote hush money trial. And I really shouldn't even call it hush money trial because that's not truly what it's about. That's a pejorative term that suggests there was something wrong underlying all this. But we'll move past that. The trial of President Donald J. Trump in New York, the first of its kind. No president, sitting or otherwise, has ever been tried in a criminal case. And you've got to wonder about this one, as we've talked about previously, a bootstrapping of city charges with federal charges, where incidentally the feds said, no mas here, we're going to overlook this and move on because there's not really anything there. Allows Alvin Bragg, the district attorney in Manhattan, to bring these charges. And so Donald Trump is forced to sit there this week through insufferable, we'll use that word, jury selection, and they couldn't find jurors. I mean, the whole notion of whether Donald Trump is going to get a fair trial or not has flown out the window long ago. He simply can't get a fair trial there, even if the charges were fair, and they're not. They should have been dismissed long ago, and I think ultimately on appeal they will be. But the thing moves on, and you see the incredible nature of this judge, who is conflicted in so many ways. A big donor to Democrats, his daughter's making money off of the trial, and he's not even sure whether he's going to let Donald Trump attend his son's graduation. Let me tell you something. If that doesn't happen, the American people will be in an uproar, because ultimately and fundamentally they see this correctly as being incredibly unfair. But Donald Trump still proves himself to be a masterful politician, because after sitting through that awful jury selection process, he said, oh, he nodded off. Well, good grief. I've been through jury selection back in the days when I was practicing law, and I'm not blaming him for nodding off. I would have snoozed myself. I mean, watching paint dry is exciting to the process that he had to go through. But at the end of the day, when court adjourned, where did he go? To a bodega in Harlem. Imagine that. Can you imagine Richard Nixon strolling into Harlem on a sunny afternoon in the early spring? Donald Trump did. And what was the reaction of the citizens in Harlem? They were cheering him. Trump, Trump, Trump. We love Trump. We love Trump. In the most difficult neighborhoods historically for Republicans to do well, Donald Trump was welcomed as a hero, as he was at that Chick-fil-A down in Florida some time ago. It just goes on, and it says once again that these trials aren't hurting Trump at all. In fact, politically, they're helping him. And before we get to another non-trial, let's just say that while Donald Trump was doing those things, Joe Biden was in my home state of Pennsylvania, couldn't even say the name of his quote-unquote hometown of Scranton. Think about that. And then went on this rambling diatribe about shaving and towels around his waist and the former governor of Delaware showing up at his doorstep and stuff that made no coherent sense whatsoever. And that's the juxtaposition of the Donald Trump campaign and the Joe Biden campaign right now. But in Washington, D.C., a real travesty to justice. The House of Representatives, the United States Congress, impeached Alejandro Mayorkas. One of only 21 times that's happened in our history. They send those charges over to the Senate, as they're required constitutionally to do. And the Senate does what? The Democrat-controlled Senate, by the narrowest of margins, just simply dismisses the thing out of hand. No trial, which they're required under the Constitution to have. No opportunity and ability for the American people to see the overwhelming evidence against Mayorkas, who, in addition to being absolutely obdurate in his approach to the southern border, is the most arrogant public official in the history of the United States. I'll say that. Tell me one that was worse than him. He is just unbelievably arrogant. Goes before Congress, refuses to answer their questions, sticks his chin up in the air and makes these long speeches about what a swell guy he is and what a great job his team is doing down at the southern border and how we're secure and there's no problems at the southern border, etc. Nothing any American truly believes. But the Senate swept this under the rug. Well, let me tell you, there isn't a rug big enough in the entire United States to cover up what they attempted to this week. The American people are demanding answers, but they already know, many of them, because they see what's going on at the southern border with somewhere around 13 million. Think about that. That's the population, the entire population of my home state, Pennsylvania. Every man, woman, and child coming across the border illegally during the administration of Joe Biden and Alejandro Mayorkas. A total disaster, a true travesty. And speaking of disasters and travesties, it was interesting to note, just as a little footnote, that William Barr, the former Attorney General of the United States, who's no great fan of Donald Trump, called the trial in New York this week an abomination. Can't say it much better than that. And for now, that is the best 60-ish seconds of your week.